Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Claudia Monticelli, the host of this podcast, Let's Talk Soul. Over the years, after having interviewed so many people on so many different topics, I realized that what interested my audience wasn't really the individual topics per se, but was how it impacted them, how it touched their soul. So I'll invite you all to lay back, put your feet up, and if you like what you hear, leave a review, 5-star review. I'd appreciate that. So just enjoy your listening. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is your host, Claudia Monticelli, and this is the podcast, Let's Talk Soul. Now, we have guests twice a month. And every time there's a new guest, it's always a different take on their life, their services, what they offer. And many times it's also a difference in the distinction of the concept of soul. Today we have Karen Cleveland. She's talking to us from Washington, the state of Washington. Say hello, Karen, to our audience.
Hello, nice to see everyone, be with everyone today.
Karen, who is she? Karen Cleveland. She's a spiritual connection specialist, and we'll dive in and we'll talk about that right away. A new thought minister, mindset mentor, and animal communicator. She offers carefully curated transformational safari adventures, ooh la la, mostly for women who've lost touch with their center and are ready to find meaning and purpose in their life again through safaris all over the world. Now, this is quite an interesting niche that you have created. Well, I'll drill you with questions. And upon returning home, she suggests that we continue the inner journey to accomplish once buried dreams that we had through our mind, body, and soul connection exercises. So she's also, she has her own podcast. She's the host of the podcast called Connectedness, where she teaches these same principles from her framework that she calls Evolve, EVOLVE, which engages the mind, body, and soul to help all listeners begin their own journey back to their heart's dreams, even in terms of the coincidences and synchronicities in life that bring us all everyday miracles and magic. And as you can hear from this introduction, there are a lot of key words that evolve around the soul. I'll pinpoint them. Then I'll list, of course, how you can get in touch with her website and her social media. So not only soul, but all things soul. Let's start with a few of the key words,
Sure.
Karen. Maybe you could distinguish and define them. You seem to put, and I'm not sure, the idea of soul on the same level as the idea of the heart.
I do write it that way. I don't believe necessarily it's the same thing, but I think depending on who my audience is,
yeah,
they might think their heart's desires is the same thing as their soul's desires until we start talking about it a little bit.
Okay.
So,
well, then let's start talking about it a little bit.
okay.
I'm a woman who saw advertising for your safaris. Do I have to contact you and tell you my story? How does that work? Or do you invite your clients on a safari? They don't come straight to you for travel. They come to you for different forms of therapy. Is that right?
So, yeah, I've never actually had a client, or I should say I've never had someone I don't know come on safari or ask to come on safari. So it might be someone I've been working with, but it might also be someone they know or people I'm in groups with, all around the different ways we have communities. So if someone were to come from me that, just randomly saw it on the internet, I would want to have discussions with them, because normally these are people that I know they're on the same page as I am as far as animals and connection and just kind of our place in life. in general.
When we the word safari evokes sand dunes, Africa, and how close am I to your travels to those?
Yeah, very close. Most of my safaris, so I've been taking people to Kenya
Okay.
on an actual wildlife animal safari. So like to see the animals behind me, the giraffes and the zebras. I don't know if you can see
Yes.
them, but definitely those kind of safaris, that is where it has started from, where it's evolved from. I've been asked to lead trips to different places where there's also animals and sacred, or like temples and just a lot of ancient spiritual activity, I guess would be the word. So I will in the future be going more places like Bali and Costa Rica and India and other places. But I've been doing Kenya. I went on my first safari there just about 6 years ago. And that is the main location at this point.
Okay, so now surely the thing that distinguishes you, Karen, from other people, many that I talk to, is the notion of animals and the concentration of animals. And I guess this has linked you to the safari where you can find animals. Now, going back to the notion of soul, is an animal, does an animal have a soul? Are they similar to a human's soul? Can a human, after passing, evolve into another life as an animal? I mean, I don't know if these are questions that you ask yourself or deal with, but I'm firing at them.
Yeah, absolutely. They are questions I ask myself. And here's what I've come to know through my experience is that as we are souls in human bodies, so are the animals, their souls in animal bodies. And I do believe that once we shed our bodies, when we return to just the energy of soul and spirit, that we are similar. And I'm still playing a little bit with the reincarnation, but I think if we had things we needed to learn for our soul's evolution by being an animal, I think it's possible.
Okay. So let's say that you generally work with people. You don't have clients bringing you their pets because the pet is acting strange. Am I correct in?
It's true. I focus more on people now, but I have worked with people in animal behavior issues or health issues. Definitely have done a lot of animal work in the past.
Can you give us some
where my connection comes from? What's that?
Can you give us an example or a tangible example, change names or things like that, but give us examples of how that played out for you?
How I can help with the animal? Is that what you're asking?
No, how you dealt with animals. You just mentioned that.
So yeah. So there's a communication between all life that is, it's nonverbal, it's not body language, it's this energetic connection system, I guess, for lack of a better word. And so I can connect with an animal anywhere in the world. I get quiet. I get in touch with my, divine higher self. And I intentionally focus on, I had a woman in India that used to contact me a lot. I would get in contact with her dog. Through the picture, the energy of the picture. And receive feelings, images, information that she needed to help answer her questions. So I believe that it can be done through anyone that's open and willing to give it a shot.
Okay. Do you listen to me? I can't even get the words out. Do you yourself have animals or an animal, a pet?
I do. I have 2 cats, a dog, and some chickens.
Oh, okay. I was expecting you to say snakes and,
no,
leopards.
Yeah.
Okay. You work with the notion of connectedness, synchronicities, coincidences. what came first, the chicken or the egg? How did
Oh,
you, what's a nice girl like you doing in a business like this? What led you to do this type of work?
wow. You,
Well, let's do that.
gosh,
Do in two places. What led you to work with this type of domain? Let's put it that way. Let's start that way.
so I kind of had this personal evolution. Most of my life I was just wondering what was out there, thinking there was something more, but
Mm-hmm.
my Catholic background didn't really feed me a lot that way.
Uh-huh.
And I started exploring both the writings of some of the like New Thought people back in the 1800s, early 1900s,
Mm-hmm.
and
What is
also
that? I'm sorry. New Thought. Was
New
that what it
Thought.
was called in that period of time?
Yeah, so people like well, Ernest Holmes, who founded the
Uh-huh.
church that I actually go to,
Right.
um, people like I can't think of names all of a
Oh,
sudden.
that's
Oh my
okay. That's
goodness.
okay. It's just to get an idea of whether that was
Yeah.
a bona fide, a movement or name
Yeah,
of a
it
new.
Ralph Waldo Emerson also
Mhm,
was kind
yes.
of part of this movement. So kind of the Enlightenment
Yes.
period
Hmm.
was when a lot of these writers and a lot of these, I guess, religions, so to speak, came forth from that time, or philosophies, I guess. Although it's ancient wisdom, it's
What
been
brought
around
you
since
there? What brought you there?
seeking, wondering what the answers were, knowing that there was, like I said, something more, and that Catholicism didn't feel quite right to me.
Mhm. No, no, no. My question is a little different.
Okay.
I'm. Let's say I was born, reared culturally a Catholic. With the same sacraments and things like that. Okay, but then, like you, let's say 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I have started seeing visions and working with spirit. But what made you I didn't go to oriental practices. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I avoided the oriental and the new age and things like that. This is why I'm saying what brought you to that
I
period
think
and
it
not.
was
Uh-huh.
my family. I had a
Ah.
sister and a brother
Uh-huh.
that gave me books to read.
Oh, I see. Okay, good for them. Yeah, good for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. So I think that's how it started for me. Um,
Uh-huh. You're making me think. There's an expression in Italian that goes something like this: rivoltare come un calzino. I'm turning you upside down, inside out like a sock. You know?
uh-huh.
So expect more of the same.
All right. Okay.
Okay, so you also mention to use or suggest use the soul in goal setting and achieving. Now, this is the first time I've read the soul to be instrumental in doing something like that. Can you a little
Yeah.
give us
Yeah.
more?
Well, I think our soul wants a voice in our world, and it wants to be heard, and it wants us to live according to why we came to live for
Yeah.
I think we're here for the evolution of our soul.
Uh-huh.
And so if we're not living in a way that's going to evolve our soul, then what are we doing? And so when we are goal setting, when we're making plans for our future, is this something that resonates with my deeper purpose for being here on Earth?
Okay.
Because if we don't look at it, we're not going to be happy. We're going to be unsatisfied
Okay, wait a minute.
continually.
It's easy to talk about. We need to get some examples. Okay. So we are let's say you work mainly with women, all those women on those safaris. Let's talk about women. All right, I'm a female politician, and I I'm a liberal. I grew up in a certain family. I worked with education. Usually people working with education are liberals. I'm creating a fictitious person here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, but I decide on the suggestion of family and friends to get into politics. All of a sudden, I start to get depressed. I start to think, what am I doing? Why didn't I just listen to myself? What is that deciding factor? Because, and I'm asking you this, Karen, for a reason, because I find that a majority of people are not in connection with their inner desires, inner dreams, inner anything. In this case, how is it possible to measure, to understand, to figure out, and to actually have maybe a conversation with our soul to understand are you doing the right thing? Well, maybe you're not doing the right thing. Well, you should have been, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I think it's a process. It's a learning process.
Yeah.
Because I think if we think we hear something, we don't believe it. Because
for example, give me an example.
So like maybe so take your person, for example, and
the politician.
And the politician, and she says to herself, she hears a voice that says you shouldn't be doing that, or she has a feeling she shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
But because she's not used to paying attention to that, to thinking that has any value.
Yes.
She goes with what everyone else is telling her because she'll bring great success or money.
Sure. But inevitably, and I'm bringing this to you as a client, right?
Okay.
This professor turned politician, right? All of a sudden, there is a donor. Okay, I'm making this up. A donor who gives her millions of dollars for her campaign, so she will become successful in winning, and then of course, there needs to be payback. She understands that. She's not naive. At that moment, she has a crisis and there's a fork in the road. And whoever comes to you, she met you through a mutual friend. And she said, look, I've gone so far. I've come so far. I've made so many decisions. Now I think I'm lost. What do you do?
I start checking in with her body, and I ask her questions to check in. When does she feel good? When does she not feel good?
So practical, very practical things, right?
Yeah. That's one of the first things to do because, we're not going to feel good if we're going against what our soul wants us to do. But then also some kind of a spiritual practice or meditative practice. And I do have different methods, not the same thing works for everyone that I have found.
Yeah.
But ways to start like testing, I guess, the information we're receiving or the direction that we should go. So do I feel like it's a left or a right? Trying to teach them how to discern the difference, what feels good, what doesn't feel good. And other signs also in the outward world. Which is
so let's say that one sign in the outward world is that she's constantly forgetting appointments with her daughter. And she neglects the family. And typically, Karen, that would come up in this initial, let's say, an intake interview, would it?
So I mean, it could come up. Yeah, absolutely. And is she forgetting the appointments? So we do a little bit of digging. Is her daughter giving her feedback that she doesn't like? Perhaps her daughter is trying to tell her the truth. So she's forgetting these appointments because she doesn't want to hear it. Or I mean, I think we need to dig a little bit into the questions behind the forgetting.
I see.
Is it scheduled? Is it on the calendar? Does she never put it on the calendar?
Yeah. So essentially you put up a mirror of some sort. So the person will see themselves through your eyes or through their own eyes once they get it. Now, in this process, obviously after this intake process, you move on to a therapeutic session or a practice. And what would you suggest once you have all the boxes ticked in this form, or, when you're happy with the notes that you have taken, what then? Wait, she can't go on a safari.
She can't?
No,
is that what you said?
Yeah, I'm saying she cannot.
Okay. And that's fine. So it's time for her to begin one of the practices that we laid out, and to start taking notes, to journal, or at least take notes every night on what happened, what didn't happen, what did you notice. And like I mentioned a few minutes ago, looking for signs. So how is the outward world showing up? I think if we really pay attention to our body, to things, to patterns that happen, like forgetting appointments, specifically with one person, there must be something going on there. But beginning to pay attention to everything, and then coming back and talking about it later after 2 weeks or something, and a continued process, but also a practice where she goes inward. Like I said, whether it be meditation or journaling or painting or some kind of thing that gets you in touch with the inner workings of us. And that, that can be something like gardening or sketching out a drawing as well.
Now, why I'm asking you all these questions is not only because I'm interviewing you, but I'm ultimately trying to reach the moment when you, I don't want to use the word therapist, you as a guidance of some sort, okay, have her, in her own words, have her soul's purpose emerge. Does that come? I mean, people, okay, this is because people may come in with blinders and they've lost their way. Is there an aha moment?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, there does need to be an aha moment. And it might come after 2 days, and it might come after 2 months is the thing. I honestly...
But not 2 years.
I mean, it depends on their dedication to themselves.
Right. Yeah.
And honestly, that's why I think safari is a great thing, because there's this field of connection on the plains.
Yes.
That helps us see and feel priorities, I think. We know what's important, what's not important again.
Okay, so let's say that underlying everything you do really, really requires a safari journey. That would be like a soul's journey then.
A little bit. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to require it, but I think it gets us there so much faster for the way that I work, because I believe in the connectedness of everything. And to get a person into that space of connectedness sometimes does take extreme measures.
I don't know about extreme.
Yeah, I know. No, it's not extreme, but
it's just a vacation. It's just a trip, isn't it?
But it can be just a vacation.
I'm joking.
Yeah.
You're falling in all those traps.
Yeah,
I forgot to tell you.
It can be simply a drive on a Sunday to go out and see animals, or it can be more than that. So
Right. Okay. So with all of these things that you do and the people that you have been in contact with, can you give us a good story, the most interesting and rewarding experience in your work?
Oh, boy.
Can you share that with us?
The most rewarding. Well, I'm going to have to change some names and details.
Oh, sure.
But there, very early on, I had a guest who wasn't, it was a friend of a friend. It wasn't someone I knew very well before heading out.
Karen, you mean a guest on the safari?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Well,
Can I
yeah,
tell
yeah,
a
no.
safari?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Sure, sure. No, I just
Okay,
needed to
okay.
understand.
Yeah.
Now she's going to stop talking. Go
Yeah.
ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, on safari, who did not who always wanted to go. So this, is a bucket list item for many people,
Sure,
trip of a
sure,
lifetime.
sure.
Didn't want to go for many reasons, bugs,
Mm,
safety, so
mm.
many possible reasons. So,
Yes.
um,
Excuses. Mm.
excuses, right, right. But and I have these, I make special journals for each
Right.
safari,
Mm-hmm.
depending on where we're going and what
Yeah.
we're doing. But so through this process, anyhow, and my talking with her a lot, she uh, and let me go back a little bit. She didn't travel much because she was
Ah,
afraid.
I see. Okay. Fear. Mm-hmm.
She simply didn't.
It
She
it
was very
wasn't
fearful of
it
the
wasn't
world.
an economic problem at all. Do you think?
A what problem?
An economic problem for her? It
No, no,
wasn't?
no.
Okay.
No, not
Mm-hmm.
an economic problem. She
Okay.
did have money. She just had these fears that after working with her and talking with her came from a kind of a distant relative's
Yeah.
history
Mm-hmm.
and their travel issues. So, our mind does funny things about what might be true for us.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, was very fearful. And by the end of the safari, um, well, let's jump ahead 6 months from the end of the safari. She was going
Oh,
to India on her own.
you're cheating us out of all those great details. No, 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 that's not permitted. I'm sorry. Go back. Go
Okay.
back to go.
Okay. Okay. Well, I didn't know if you wanted to hear every
Oh, yes, we
nitty-gritty
did.
detail.
We sure we do.
Well, she discovered through the safari process. So we went through all these things that she believed. And when I actually asked her and we looked at them, it's like, have the bugs actually been a problem?
Ah,
Is there, when have you not felt safe
uh-huh.
on this particular trip?
Uh-huh.
And while at first there were some moments she thought she might not be safe,
Yes.
excuse me,
Mm-hmm.
by the end of the trip, she realized there were everyone was there to support her,
Good,
including all the people at the lodges, all the
good.
drivers. I mean, there was no one who was against her, basically.
No one that presented a threat.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly.
So, okay,
Um,
you can jump ahead now. Six
well,
months.
um, and there was one more issue she was having, and I just lost it.
Hmm.
Um, but it had to do with safety. Oh, I think and general comfort. It'll come
Uh-huh.
to me.
That's okay.
Anyhow,
Mm-hmm.
so we get back home
Right.
and she's processing all this. She's actually emailing me constantly.
Oh, mm.
Not she didn't want to talk on the phone, but because she was at work, she was emailing a lot. We had a few conversations, but then she decided to travel to India all by herself.
Oh my
And I thought,
God.
wow.
Wow. Yes. Wow.
I
I'm
don't know if
saying
I
wow
would
too.
do that. Yeah. So, I mean, it was a complete turnaround. And now, I mean, now she's basically a philanthropist. So,
Oh,
I mean, she always was, but she was
yeah.
not personally
Involved.
executing
Yeah.
uh the trips and
Uh-huh.
checking things out.
How
So,
interesting. So this
yeah.
gave you really heartfelt satisfaction, I
Well,
imagine.
yeah, and it wasn't the kind of scenario I was expecting, the fears of travel. So
Mhm.
usually I'm working with a fear of well, I don't know, some money issues, some family issues, some relationship issues, some,
Loneliness.
different things,
Hmm.
not specifically related to travel. So
Hmm.
it really helped her a lot.
Great. What about a failure case? I hate to bring that up, but um,
A
in
failure.
Italian, they say not all donuts come out with a hole. Very wise. Do you have one of those donuts?
I do. I
Yeah.
mean, not everyone is as open as we think they are to receiving new information.
Yes,
So, and
unfortunately.
it's not funny, but the thing is, this person was sick most of the trip, and
Yeah.
I think that was her body trying to tell her something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And she kind of made the trip difficult for some of the other people.
Yes.
Um, but I mean, I don't know if she's a failure, but
Oh.
I don't think she got anything more out of the trip than
Right. She
a
had less.
vacation.
Yeah, I see. I see. Well, those, I mean, like I said, the donuts without the holes.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was so wonderful. I really am not in awe. I don't want to say in awe, but pleasantly surprised with the spin-off um of how you deal with the notion of finding your soul's journey, of recuperating that. And
It's
of
a little
course,
different.
yeah, it's different. It's different. And now her website, I will put it down in the description of the video or the episode. She's on Facebook. You can find her as Reverend Karen Cleveland, like the city. And LinkedIn also Rev Karen Cleveland, Instagram Rev Karen Cleveland, all around.
All
So
over.
are we going to get a book in the near future?
Oh my gosh.
I got you. I stumped you. Stumped the stars. There she is. I've given you some food for thought.
Yeah, you have.
All right,
You
good for
have.
you. And when you do that, black on white, contact me again and we'll talk
Okay.
about it.
I will
Thank
do
you
that.
so much for taking the time to
Yes.
talk to
Thank
us.
you.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure. Bye-bye.
Absolutely. It was fun.
Bye-bye.
Good questions. Bye-bye.